Hi everybody, Courtney here, and I am a yoga therapist working in the medical field. My title is stress management therapist, and I just wanted to spend a brief little bit talking about feelings and dealing with your feelings, and also dealing with guilt about feelings and self-esteem issues with how you handle your feelings. And so I want to share some tips and thoughts on that. Today we're going to cover irritation, anger, tolerance, boundaries, and self-esteem issues around that. I'm going to use a story that I recently experienced from my own life, and because I can only talk to you from my own perspective and my own experience. The first one is irritation. Have you ever been irritated with a situation or a group or person, and you struggled with feeling that you were being judgy or self-righteous? So last night we went to a concert. There were a lot of crazy things going on. The sound, the acoustics were terrible, and the people. There were a lot of drunk people there. I've never seen a concert with so many people drinking and doing goodness knows what, but they were behaving very badly, and it was impacting us where we were seated, and like people were vaping, and the smoke was coming in my face, and I'm an asthmatic. People were putting their feet up by my head with sandals on, and it was like 90 degrees. So needless to say, I was feeling very irritated. And I actually posted a little bit of something on this today, kind of broad and not passive aggressive, but just saying like, I've been taught to not say something if it's not nice, and to not be mean, and to be polite. But sometimes you're put into situations where the people around you are being impolite or being disrespectful, and you struggle with, do I say something about this? This can be little, like being in a group, or it can be in your own home or in your own relationships where people just aren't being thoughtful, or maybe they're not acting in the way that you would act. So your perspective is that they're being disrespectful. So I didn't really get angry, but I'm going to have to do a webinar on anger. That was the topic I was given for a webinar that's coming up, and I'll be announcing that soon. I am not putting it on. It's something I'm doing for another company. So as soon as I can advertise on that, I'll let you know. But what I want to talk about is just having feelings like anger, irritation, what we consider negative feelings. And I'm here to tell you today that that is normal. Everyone has feelings. Not one person gets out of this world without having anger, irritation, sadness, happiness, joy, love, loneliness. I mean, those are all feelings that everyone experiences. It's okay to have those feelings, all of those feelings, what we perceive as bad and what we perceive as good. That is part of the human condition. So welcome to the human race. You're normal. It's not about having them, it's what you do with them. So we have a saying, I go to a group, and we have a saying there called that just says, you can mean what you say without being mean, right? Mean what you say, just don't be mean. So last night I chose not to say anything because the problems were so big around us, and we just ended up leaving early, and that was our way of handling it. There have been times in my life where I've had to deal with difficult people that I have had to say what I mean, and I've had to cut them out of my life after multiple efforts of trying. If you know anything about Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFJ, so if you're into that, you'll know very quickly that I'm an extremely tolerant person until there's at one point where there's no return for me, and I will cut people out of my life that have crossed those boundaries. The other thing I want to get to is tolerance and boundaries. I had a therapist one time because I grew up in an alcoholic family. I've had a lot of therapy. I have been married to an alcoholic, and I tended to tolerate a lot. And this therapist said to me, there is such a thing as being too adaptable. And so what that can often look like for some people is losing themselves in a relationship. It might be a friendship. It might be where you have a friend that you notice that when you're with this person, you actually feel worse about yourself afterwards. A relationship where you're constantly questioning yourself and your own sanity, and are you crazy? especially if you have grown up with addiction in your family or a narcissistic parent or something like that. And oftentimes having trouble setting boundaries with people. And what does that look like? So I've had situations, I've had 2 friendships that I've had to end, and they were also work related. And I've had 2 marriages that I've had to end because I didn't set good boundaries and I was too adaptable. But after all of those endings, my self-esteem was often in the gutter because I would feel like, is there something I did? Could I have done something better? How can I not make this mistake again? Am I really bad at reading people? Do I have poor judgment? I was just like really tearing myself up. And I'm not going to say that I don't ever do that at this point. But what I do want to say is, if your self-esteem is struggling from this, just know that we're all doing the best that we can. And sometimes when you are a very tolerant and loving person and you do finally set a boundary, sometimes people may react in a way that is just like utter shock. Like, what do you mean? Because they're not used to seeing you set boundaries. So I'm not sure if that's you that I'm speaking to today, but regardless, I want to tell people out there that my experience as a yoga therapist and stress management specialist is, it helps if we all know that we all experience a range of emotions and that those are normal. And the bottom line is what we do with those emotions. And then the next thing is knowing how much to tolerate, how much that we can and can't control, what we can control, what can we let go of. It's not just about accepting. And there's this big thing about acceptance. We need to accept things, but it doesn't mean that we ignore problems and we ignore bad behavior. We might accept this person has really bad behavior. Maybe they lie, they cheat, they steal. Maybe they're using you. And then at that point, we set the boundary of no more. This is not going to go on anymore. You're out of my life, or this changes, or you're out of my life. And so you should not feel guilt for that. What you don't want to do is stop being a loving, kind, and caring person because you drew a person that was manipulative into your life or that had addiction into your life. So I hope this is helpful to somebody. I hope this all makes sense. I tend to write better than I talk out loud sometimes, but I just wanted to put this out for you today. Don't feel guilty for having feelings. Learn how to have a healthy balance with your feelings, and please reach out if you want to me, and we can talk about it. Thank you. Bye-bye.